Welcome back to Temple Emanu. This Shabbat is Shabbat Vayechi. It is the Shabbat when we read the very last Torah portion in the book of Bereshit, in the book of Genesis. Ironically, the Torah portion means Vayechi, and he lived, and it then goes on to tell us of the last few years of Jacob's life in Egypt, and then talks about Jacob's death, as well as the death of Joseph, his son, setting us up for the next story in the book of Shemot, in the book of Exodus, of the ultimate rescue of our people from Egyptian slavery. When Jacob's sons are told that he is nearing the end of his life, Joseph and all of the others appear before their father, and two curious things happen. Jacob takes Joseph's sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, and blesses them, effectively making them his own children. But in doing so, and in keeping with the pattern of the patriarchal narratives, Ephraim the younger is placed before his older brother Manasseh. The story tells us that Jacob crossed his hands. And then Jacob goes on to give a specific blessing to each of his other sons, each of his children. Unfortunately, and the feminists make note of this, his daughter Dinah is left out of the equation. But in the process of doing that, he establishes the precedent and the ideology for each of the tribes. In fact, the symbols, such as the lion of Judah or the ship of Zebulun, are taken from this week's Torah portion as Jacob is describing each of his sons in relation to some object or some animal. But then at the end of that long narrative where he gives a specific blessing to each of his children, we have a curious verse in Genesis 49:28. It sums up the scene by saying, Kol ele shivtei Yisrael shnayim asar. These are the 12 tribes of Israel. V'zot asher diber lahem avihem, and this is what their father said to them. Vayivarech otam, as he blessed them, ish asher kavir chato berach otam. Each according to his own blessing, he blessed them. And that's a peculiar sentence. What does it mean to say that each according to his own blessing, he blessed them? If each had his own blessing, they were already blessed by it. They didn't need Jacob to do that. And so there's a strange juxtaposition in this verse. One of the understandings of it, and I think one of the important understandings of it, is given to us by the Rabbal, who says that what's going on here is that he already knew, as a good parent, he perceived what brachot, what blessings his sons already had. And he wasn't giving them at this point anything they didn't already possess in their inner selves, but he was in fact being realistic with them, both to the good and to the not so good, as to who they were and what they were, and perhaps a little bit predicting what they were going to be, but predicting based on his knowledge of what his children already had. But in doing so, he was also able to set up the idea that God or their brothers would ultimately each help each other get what they wanted and get what they needed. This is a very important statement and understanding for us in the Jewish community today. There is no one set formula for each of our children and how to raise them as good Jews. There's no one set formula to how to appeal to Jewish people of any age and bring them into activity, not just in the synagogue, but in Jewish life in general. Ish kavir chato, each one according to their own needs and their own propensities. Those are the blessings that we have to deliver to them. Those are the things that we need to give each one. We need to enter, and we have entered, a new phase, a new era of flexibility, of understanding the new kinds of needs, and perhaps even the individual needs of the members of the 12 tribes, which are blessed in this week's Torah portion. Shabbat Shalom.